Well, hello, everybody. This is Tim Brahim with Performance Experts Coaching and Leadership 360, and I have a special guest for this recording, Ryan Grant from Benchmark Mortgage, and he is out of Southern California, and Ryan and I were just together for 8 days in Costa Rica at the Leadership 360 retreat, and I'm really excited to be able to spend now the next 12 months working with him and the rest of the group on the growth of his business and his balance in his life. And Ryan, thanks so much for taking a moment to chat with the listeners.
Of course, happy to be here.
So Ryan does about 325 units a year, so he's a superstar producer. And try this one on for size, gang. He's only been in the business for 5.5 years, so he is really doing some wonderful things. And what I asked of him today is I wanted him to share about one of his massive impact goals from his business and life plan. Now, let me set this up just for a second. In Costa Rica, in that week that we spend together with the group, we assist everybody in creating a business and life plan for themselves, but then when we leave the retreat, we really try to refine that and get focused on just 3 what we call MIGs, or massive impact goals, that over the course of the next 4.5 months leading up to our next retreat in California, Ryan and the rest of the other eight folks in the group will be working on specifically being laser focused. So Ryan, give us one of your MIGs that you're going to be working on over the next 4.5 months leading up to March.
Yeah, the one that I'm really focused on is just optimizing my job description in a way that I'm kind of working in my zone of excellence and my zone of genius a minimum of at least 60% of the time, and offloading all tasks kind of below my hourly rate to my team, just to really free up my time to grow the business and continue to focus on the things that are important, have good return on investment, and more importantly, more return on energy, keeping me engaged for years to come.
And one of the things that we talk about quite a bit is that energy piece. Everybody looks at their business decisions through the lens of ROI, return on investment of time, which is certainly important, but we tend to ignore the return on the energy, meaning like how graceful is it for me to be working on this specific task, or does it drain me, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? So tell us one thing. So you're going to be working on spending 60% of your day above the line, so to speak, and high payoff, high energy type encounters, which I think is a terrific goal. Tell us one thing that you took away from your learnings in Costa Rica pertaining to this that you think that the listener might benefit from hearing.
Yeah, so we did an activity prior to the retreat, which was to basically time log our day for 2 weeks. And down to every kind of 15 to 30 minutes, seeing what we were doing in our day during our work day, which was really eye-opening because it showed us how much time we're not spending doing high payoff activities and high return on energy activities. So I was able to kind of look back and see, even though maybe I was doing it, maybe I thought it was high return on investment, if I didn't enjoy doing it, or if it didn't give me energy and it would actually detract from my energy, I was able to identify that much more clearly. So what I'm going to be doing now moving forward is being very cognizant of that, making sure that I'm scheduling and doing things that are high return on energy, high return on investment. And one of the ways I can do that is by empowering my team to kind of come to their own conclusions. So where I used to, someone would come to my office and they'd ask me a question or need a solution, and I would just answer it. Now, one of the things that I learned at the retreat was to basically answer a question with another question, allowing them to come to their own conclusion and basically empowering them to make the decision that they know they could have made to begin with. So I was basically feeding into a system of them having to come to me for everything because I just gave them the answer as opposed to help them understanding it on their own.
Yeah, that's a huge takeaway, and what that might look like for those of you listening is something along the lines of your processor comes to you and you've gotten a loan declined, and wants to know, how you should restructure the file, or how, they'd like you to restructure the file. And instead of just giving them the answer, one of the things that you may want to do is just say, well, before I give you that answer, let me ask you, what would you do if you were in my shoes? And there's a hidden benefit to this, by the way, that all of you should take note of, which is that when the person then comes back and gives you a solution that is in accord with what you would have given them as an answer, in addition to the fact that you're empowering them to think out of the box, and think in a creative way, and therefore, as Ryan was saying, empower them, there's something else that's transpiring, which is that when you hear them come up with the right answer, it gives you confidence in them, which is the needed piece to letting go and not feeling so much of a need to be involved in the business and controlling the business. So you're teaching them along the way and you're building your confidence. So thanks for sharing that. And over the next 4.5 months, Scott and Julie and I are really looking forward to supporting you on the successful implementation of that MIG and the other two that you're working on. So one final quick question is that people from time to time apply for Leadership 360, and when we get in the process of chatting with them a little bit about the program, there are a few different reasons as to why people decide that they can't do it. One is that they don't have enough time, or they can't get away from the office for a week to break away and be off the grid, and or the cost may even be a factor. So since you've now been through at least the 1-week retreat, you've got a whole 12 months coming still that you haven't yet experienced. How would you respond to that now that you've had a little bit of experience with it?
Yeah, I think the answer is twofold. When it comes to not having time or not having the ability to leave the pipeline, kind of going back to my massive impact goal, one thing I found when I came back from the retreat was the fact that I wasn't accessible to my team, and the fact that I was not there. They had to make certain decisions, and they had to be empowered to do things that they would otherwise come to me with. So they actually grew a lot by not having me there, and they were able to handle everything extremely well. Nothing was wrong when I got back. There was no blow-up files, no bad conversations, and it gave them the knowledge of understanding, hey, we don't need him here. Maybe we use him as a crutch too much, and we can do this. We can handle the pipeline on our own. So I think it's actually beneficial to leave some things in your team's hand, and I think that in terms of getting away, one thing that Tim asked me when I first was entertaining the idea is, when was the last time you spent at least 8 hours consecutively working on your business? And the answer was never. As originators, we're either working in the business or we're not working at all. But working on the business very rarely happens. So I think that not only spending a little bit of time, but a whole week of focused, intentionality behind the business is extremely necessary, and I don't think you couldn't expect to have a really good outcome without it, in my opinion. To the people that say that the cost is an issue, you just kind of have to look at your business and ask yourself, what's the cost of not doing it? And to me, if I'm, like Tim had said, I'm in my 5.5 year in this, and if I keep going and if I keep continuing to accept non-high energy activities, and I'm packing my schedule, and I have a poor work-life balance, and my experience in the industry is stressful, I'm going to have a very short fuse. And going to the retreat, at least just the first portion of the retreat, not to mention the 12 months to come, really gave me some confidence in knowing that I have a really long runway in this, as long as I am focused and as long as I'm being protected of my experience and protected of my energy and making sure that my team is functioning well. I don't think that you could ever put a price tag on knowing that the longevity piece of the business is always going to be in place.
Thanks, man, for sharing that. In closing, what I'll share to just really, from a personal experience, echo what Ryan just shared with you, is that I'll never forget the first time I ever went out of the country. I went on my honeymoon to Peru, and this was back in 1995. And there were no cell towers or anything like that in Peru back then, so I was truly, completely and totally off the grid for 17 days. with my wife, and the result of it was that I did have to completely trust that my team would handle my pipeline. And what I was really shocked to find when I returned was that in many ways they did better without me there than they did when I was there. They grew so much as a team in those 2.5 weeks for the exact reasons you're underscoring, is that they had to make their own decisions. I'm sure there were some fires that came up, but I certainly didn't find out about them because they put them out effectively. And boy, that was kind of a springboard for me in having some freedom in my life. And I'm really glad that you've chosen this MIG, and I'm super excited to support you on it. Thanks a lot for taking the time to share a little bit about what you learned. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you, bro, in the next month or two.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody. We'll have another recording for you coming here real soon.